Todd Chrisley's estranged daughter, Lindsie Chrisley, admits to learning blistering truths about herself. With the new year quickly approaching, it appears the newly divorced mother of one is taking some time for self-reflection. So, what has Lindsie learned? Keep reading to find out. To wrap up 2021, Lindsie Chrisley takes to her Instagram to share a lengthy post. To say 2021 was eventful for the podcast host would be an understatement. Some significant life changes in Todd Chrisley's oldest daughter's life include the following. Before the year ends, Lindsie Chrisley lets fans know that Jackson turns 9 on New Year's Eve. She also thanks fans for following along on their journey. The mother/son duo just got back from Disney World and tennis trip. The images in the post are from a concert Lindsie took Jackson to a few weeks back. She dotes on spending time with her son and writes, "The sweetness is unmatched." Aside from Polaroid-like pictures of Lindsie Chrisley with her son are ticket stubs. The pair went to Elevation Worship to see Pastor Stephen Furtick at the State Farm Arena. In Lindsie's recent Instagram post, she explains her intention for the rest of 2021. "I plan to take the last few days of 2021, spending some much-needed time at home and with myself." Then, the influencer quotes Adele. "People love to portray a divorced woman as spinning out of control. But I've learned a lot of blistering home truths about myself along the way. I shed many layers, but also wrapped myself in new ones. I've never felt more peaceful in my life." From the sounds of it, Lindsie Chrisley has a firm grasp on her freshly single life. In the comment section, fans are singing Lindsie's praises. Fans commend the Coffee Convo's co-host for her transparency, strength, and wisdom. Many of the comments also give blessings to the new year for Lindsie and Jackson. Some of the fan comments include, "What do you think about Lindsie Chrisley and her plans for the last few days of 2021? Do you find her inspirational? Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Don't forget to come back to TV shows Ace for more Chrisley Knows Best. Lindsie Chrisley never expected the mirrors in her life to crack as loudly as they did. The reflections she once held dear, curated, filtered, and preserved like pressed flowers, no longer fit her reality. What began as a slow unraveling became a blistering awakening, each layer peeled back revealing truths she had long buried under years of family drama, public scrutiny, and personal denial. The Instagram illusion. For years, Lindsie mastered the art of perception. She wasn't just a Chrisley. She was the normal one, the peace seeker, the bridge between chaos and composure. While the rest of the Chrisley family lit up tabloids with scandals, feuds, and financial misadventures, Lindsie positioned herself on the fringes, carefully sculpting her own narrative. A devoted mother, a podcast host, and a woman who had chosen boundaries over bloodlines. But behind the filters and captions, a storm brewed. "I thought I had escaped," she says quietly, sitting cross-legged on a sun-drenched porch in Tennessee during a rare, unguarded interview. "But you can't outrun yourself. You can unfollow your past, but it always shows up again in the mirror." The fallout and the freezedy years following her departure from Chrisley Knows Best had been marked by a standoff with her family, public mudslinging, legal drama, and whispers of betrayal. In the crossfire stood Lindsie, insisting she wanted nothing but peace. But the silence she sought came at a cost. "I was frozen," she admits. "I wasn't healing. I was just hiding. I convinced myself I was doing better because I wasn't yelling or crying. But numb isn't the same as okay." The podcast she co-hosted, Coffee Convos, became her confessional booth. But even then, she walked a tightrope, revealing just enough vulnerability to connect with listeners while shielding herself from the deeper truths she wasn't yet ready to face. Motherhood. The mirror that doesn't lead wasn't a tabloid headline or a family fallout that forced Lindsie to look inward. It was her son. "Jackson asked me one night, 'Why do grown-ups lie?'" she recalls, her voice cracking. "I couldn't answer him. Because in that moment, I realized I'd been lying to myself, to everyone. It wasn't a malicious lie, but one born from survival. The lie that she was fine. The lie that distancing herself from her parents made her invincible. The lie that she could be whole without reckoning with her broken pieces. Motherhood, she says, has a way of showing you your own reflection. Unfiltered, unflinching. There's no performance when you're raising a child. They see you. They sense everything. Jackson saw my sadness before I did. Therapy and the ugly middle took a nudge. Or rather, a shove. From a close friend for Lindsie to begin a gentle process turned out to be something else entirely. It wasn't a peaceful yoga retreat, she says with a dry laugh. It was a battlefield. Therapy cracked me open. I learned that I wasn't just hurt. I was harboring rage. I had deep-seated fears of abandonment, of unworthiness. I realized I had inherited emotional patterns I swore I'd never repeat. The sessions unearthed memories and truths she had buried under layers of "I'm fine." There was the pressure to appear perfect. The trauma of being pulled between loyalty and self-preservation. The guilt of walking away. And most painfully, the acknowledgement that she had contributed to her own cycles of dysfunction. I wasn't the victim I painted myself to be, she says. I was a participant. Maybe not in everything, but in enough. This admission was her turning point. The truth was blistering, but it was also cleansing. Forgiveness without permission. One of the hardest truths Lindsie learned was this. Forgiveness doesn't require an apology. It doesn't need a reunion or a resolution. Sometimes it's a solo act. For a long time, I thought healing meant we all come back together. That we'd sit down, cry, hug, and say sorry. But that moment never came, and I had to stop waiting. Instead, she started writing letters. Not to send, but to say what she never could aloud. Letters to her father Todd, to her stepmother Julie, to her younger self. I told that little girl I was sorry for silencing her, she says softly. I told her she was allowed to take up space, even if it meant making other people uncomfortable. And in those silent letters, forgiveness began to bloom. Rebuilding a self beyond the Chrisley Knows of the most defining moments of Lindsie's recent journey was when she asked herself a haunting question. Who am I if I'm not someone's daughter, someone's ex-wife, someone's former reality TV star? The answer didn't come easily. It came in fragments. Morning jogs, late-night journaling, baking cupcakes with her son, taking social media breaks, devouring books she never had time to read, falling in love again with herself. She launched a new podcast series focused entirely on personal growth, trauma recovery, and conscious parenting, a sharp pivot from the celebrity gossip-tinged content of her earlier podcasting days. It felt right, she explains. I didn't want to just talk about other people's lives anymore. I wanted to dig into mine. I wanted to stop being the person who reacts and start being the person who reflects. She also began working on a memoir, not a scandal-ridden tell-all, but a story of reclamation. It's called Unfollowed, she reveals with a smile. Because that's what I did, not just to people online, but to old versions of myself. The present. Messy but authentic today, Lindsie's life isn't neat. She still has complicated feelings about her family. She's still navigating co-parenting. She still catches herself people-pleasing or defaulting to emotional armor. But the difference now is, she notices I'm awake now, she says, and being awake hurts sometimes. But I'd rather feel everything than feel nothing. She no longer defines herself by what she's left or lost. She defines herself by what she's building, truthfully, imperfectly, and in real time. I used to think vulnerability was weakness. Now, I know it's the bravest thing I've ever done. Looking at Lindsie doesn't know if she'll ever reconcile with her father or if the Chrisley clan will ever be whole again in the way fans once hoped. And she's okay with that. Closure isn't always a conversation, she says. Sometimes it's a choice, a decision to keep living your life, even if the past never gets wrapped up in a pretty bow. She continues to share her journey with her followers, not for sympathy, but for solidarity. For the women learning to forgive themselves. For the mothers breaking generational patterns. For anyone who's ever stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "Who am I?" You get to decide, Lindsie says. You don't need anyone else's permission to become who you were meant to be. And with that, she takes a deep breath, tilts her face toward the sun, and lets the warmth land. No longer hiding, no longer pretending, just being.